Saul Canelo Alvarez is now the WBO light heavyweight champion of the world with an 11th round stoppage. I think it was registered a TKO, but it was definitely a concussive knockout over the once formidable Sergey Kovalev. It wasn't a particularly great fight. It looked like Kovalev could maybe use his natural advantages to keep Canelo at bay, to frustrate him, and at least hope for a decision win. But what you've got now with this degraded version of Kovalev, you could even say shot, is that he is fighting in a manner in which it's just all about maintenance. He's just trying to keep you away. He was doing things early on, like keeping his arm just extended, just hoping he could keep him at bay like that. The referee says, you know, you've got to use it, you can't just hold it out. And then he was doing kind of ugly habits that weren't quite working, like rushing in and trying to force a clinch because he's a little bit self-conscious of his stamina. There was also a telling thing he said in the post-fight interview. He was asked, why weren't you trying to drill your right hand down there? And he said something to the effect of, I was worried about what was coming back. And when you ever have a guy who was more of a natural seek and destroy guy, and then he's worried about what's coming back, it just really neutralizes his effectiveness. And yet, you could arguably have had Kovalev ahead at the time of the stoppage, because Canelo, while he was landing some good shots to the body and to the head, it was very sporadic, and he was finding it kind of difficult, while keeping his hands up, to close the gap and really get any kind of consistent shots off. How do you credit this kind of win? Yes, Kovalev was a champion. Yes, he'd previously defeated Anthony Yarde in a tough fight. But when you defeat someone who, years ago you said, would have been the victor, the Kovalev certainly of 2013, 2014, most people, including myself, would have to say that Kovalev would definitely beat Canelo. And that's why timing and fighting guys at their best is so important, because in this case you have a guy who I feel most people will think would have beaten Canelo had he been at his best, but he's so shot now, Kovalev, that of course he couldn't hold it together, and he fights like a guy who's concerned about his own vulnerabilities. It's etched in his face. There's no longer that spite he used to have, and ultimately it was his undoing. You got to give Canelo credit, but at the same time we know why he took this fight. I expected a late round stoppage, and ultimately that's what happened. He was the hyena, he saw the wounded buffalo, and he went for it. With Kovalev, of course, he's 36, that's kind of old, but he's abused himself, hasn't he, with alcohol, and he's had a few stoppage defeats now, which really changes a fighter's mentality. I wouldn't go as far to say that Kovalev was a bully, and once he got his comeuppance, his kind of world collapsed in terms of his mental toughness. But fighters take losses differently, and again, Kovalev, I think when he lost, when he showed those vulnerabilities, when he became conscious of them, they messed with his style, and you're getting this pitter-patter jab. He looks like a guy who's blown a gasket, he's like a blown fuse, and he's just nowhere near as effective, and as a result, a lot more vulnerable. He's got his paycheck now. I don't see the point of Kovalev continuing. I think he should take what money and his own legacy of being a pretty good light heavyweight champion in recent times. He should take that and retire contently. Canelo Alvarez has the opportunity of possibly fighting IBF and WBC unified champ Artur Beterbiev, but I do not think he will do that. It's more likely that he will face Triple G in a rematch, even though he was dismissive, because it ultimately makes business sense, and Triple G does not have anywhere to go in his career, aging as well. I would prefer to see Canelo take on a big, fresh, live body like Callum Smith, whose career is kind of at a loose end at the moment, but I very much doubt we are going to get that one.